Hello everyone, this is Oliver from Neo, and today we are going to dive into a new tea which we are going to launch, and this is the Sencha, shaded Sencha from the Kobataen farm. So this tea actually we discovered just recently, and I was really impressed by the sweetness of this tea. It is a tea which is also from the south, from the region of Kagoshima, one of the regions which are more and more come into very appreciating and very liking, and especially the tea. They show against kind of the opinion of the Japanese people. In my opinion, there is a lot of sweetness and a lot of fineness in the tea. And this sencha here, it is a shaded sencha, so it is a tea which I actually came to appreciate a lot thanks to its sweetness. What is particular about this tea in general is that it is actually a mix between not only three different cultivars, but also it is a mix from last year and this year. So 2 different years of cultivars blended together, giving it its unique and special taste. So I just gonna show you the leaves. They're just splendid. You can see the darkness of this tea. So very beautiful tea, and you can really see the shaded leaves. So they are really dark, and quite long, not dusty at all. So it's a clear asamushi, so a lightly steamed tea. So a very fine asamushi. It is not too shiny in its appearance, but it is already pretty dark. So just from the view of this tea, you might say that you don't expect a too strong umami, a too strong of this savory note, but a very fine sweetness, maybe even going into a fruitiness. If I just smell at the leaves, I got a lot of grassy tones in the tea. A little bit of a light fruitiness, I would say, kind of a little bit light mango when you smell at the ripe mango, but very slight. And it has a slight flowery note, so quite on the light side, and not too much of the steep sweetness coming from the umami savory tones. So I really expect this tea then to be fruity. I haven't drunken it so much that I already remember the taste notes. I only do remember that it was very sweet and but not too savory. So then let's dive directly into it. So as I'm on vacation, I don't have too much of my utensils with me, so I had to heat up the water with a pan. So here we are around 65 to 70 degrees, rather on the 65 side. Important for me, like one of the main rules or one of the thumb rules for myself, is always to have a tea or kind of tea water temperature around 60 degrees Celsius, which then are 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This is mainly the best kind of temperature which I can see for a green tea to really see the different or the broad flavor profile. As soon as you want to get a little bit more of a freshness, a little bit more of citrusy note, go up to 80 degrees. So we're gonna brew this tea here for only 1 minute. Sencha, in comparison to Gyokuro, this is a video I will dive later into, is a shorter brewing tea. The shortest brewing is actually the Fukamushi in terms of leaf teas. And then you go over into Sencha, which is between 1 minute and 1.5 minutes, and then you go to Gyokuro, which is between 2 and 3 minutes. So this one here, we only leave it at 1 minute, and then we're gonna just pour it in the glass. Yeah, voila. Try to get out all the water, that there's no after steeping of the tea. And what we can see is that there's a light golden color, there's no dark kind of jade green color. So it's a very typical color for a asamushi, more into the golden color than into this deeper greener color. But let's go for the first steeping and the first sip of the first steeping. What I noticed directly with this tea is that it has a beautiful kind of a mellow, sweet tone, flowery note. There's a little bit of umami there, so there's a little bit of savoriness, but they're kind of different levels of savory. Sometimes you really have this intense savoriness, which is clearly coming through with the gyokuros. With this one here we are really on the sweet side, on the light side. I have a little bit of flower, I have a little bit. I have a fruity, I would say green raisins, green apple is definitely notes which I get from this tea, but not on the citrusy side, so not on this kind of a little bit astringent side. It's more kind of the tone of the flavored tone of green grapes, green apple. And there's a slight roasty flavor with it, which is pretty nice. So it's very in the background. There's a little bit of a, sometimes it's coming through as a cereally, sometimes a little bit as a kind of a slightly roasted flavor profile. This I often have already experienced. I think it's a little bit coming from the theanine, from the also from how they in the production process at the end, how they dry the teas to what extent, and sometimes there can come a slight hint of a roasted flavor, even though it is a normal green tea which is not roasted or not labeled as a roasted tea. But now I want to see how this tea develops from the first to the second brewing, so I want to do also the second brewing in these leaves. So we're just gonna leave it in 20 seconds, second steeping, as the leaves are already open. Definitely what is needed is around 20 seconds, as they don't need to open up fully anymore. So we just pour it in as well. It got a little bit more intense in the yellow kind of golden color note. It's got a little bit darker. So very nice to see now. Now the second brewing is a little bit more intense. Japanese people always told me they tend to like the second brewing better than the first one. For me, every brewing has a little bit its own characteristic, but kind of the first sip of the tea is always for me the biggest pleasure. But this is very personal and up to you. So here. I got much more of the cereally tones now coming through, but still a strong sweetness of the tea. And I think also the kind of the tea, the kind of cultivars which are in the tea, so the tea breeds which are in this tea. Here you have Asanoka, Okumidori, and Yabukita. These are the three which are used. And I just purchased the other day, I also purchased from Mr. Henta a tea which had 8 different cultivars in it, and there I started to, or he gave me like the 3 main cultivars which are in the tea to test, and we will launch them also separately, so you have pure kind of single cultivar teas. And what I realized is there's one cultivar in Japan which I haven't heard of until this year. It is pretty common, it's pretty known, and this is the Asanoka cultivar. And this cultivar is quite cheap, thanks kind of its being it's not kind of sought after, or it seems to be not a very sought after cultivar. Therefore, it seems to be that the price is due to this a little bit lower. But a lot of farmers use it to mix it into their teas. And here also you have the Asanoka in this tea, and it kind of gives the tea a little bit of the cereally kind of a more kind of a slight roasted flavor, and I tend to really like, especially now in summertime where I like a little bit of the fresh side. I like the greener side, but also kind of these slight cereally tones of the Asanoka I tend to like a lot. And here in the second brewing, it seems that the Asanoka really is the most dominant cultivar. Meanwhile, in the first brewing, the Okumidori seems to be more upfront with its sweetness, with its kind of roundness, and its more kind of fruity tones. And the Yabukita seems just to flow with them and giving a little bit, maybe giving a little bit more of this greener tone. So here definitely we have a sweet, flowery, also slight savory note in this tea coming from the shading in the second brewing. It's just a slight cereally tone, which is coming more into the front of the tea, but still stays very sweet. And what is less dominant, or what is less strong now in the second brewing, is definitely this kind of umami or the savory note. It's really dimming down, letting space for all other kind of taste profiles, taste notes taking place. And here it is a little bit more of a cereally tone coming in. So quite interesting tea. I personally like the tea because it is a tea which is not too strong in the savory note. I tend to shy away a little bit from like this strong savory gyokuro. Sometimes in Japan they even take only 30 milliliters to brew it, to have really this intense savory note. And what I'm looking for in a sencha is a little bit more of this light fruitiness and the sweetness in the taste profile, if I'm looking still for a good round characteristic tea. So this one here definitely plays very well on this fruity, on this light side, bringing also in the second brewing also a little bit of a cereally tone. I guess it's thanks to the Asanoka tea. So this is a little bit this tea in detail explained, what is nice about the tea and what we actually can expect from this sencha. 1 week shaded before the harvest, 3 different cultivars, and outer mixed of 2 different harvests. So 1 from last year and 1 from this year. Good. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you like this, and I wish you a great day. And if you ever have a question, don't forget, ask me anything. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now. Click down at the bottom. Thanks.